Stark, what do you think about Brianna Wu? Let's reminisce back in the day, before the journalists had built the Great Wall between the East and the West. Back when boys would attend Sunday Mass, and the girl next door wasn't such a hussy! And people would refer to Legend of Dragoon and Grandia as RPGs without that rascally qualifier, J. Back when we thought that this was the worst it was going to get.
Ah, there!
Remember those days? Well, Square doesn't. Final Fantasy XIII is the 13th numerical Final Fantasy in the mainline series, the 25th sequential mainline title, as well as the 54th Final Fantasy released within the franchise as a whole. I wasn't going anywhere with that, just thought I'd waste your precious fleeting hours left on Earth with worthless information. I've had requests to do a video on 13 for quite some time now. I don't know what you expect me to say, or if you want to hear me say what you've heard 1,000 times already. Hey yo man, where the gameplay at? Fucking lines and shit. Look, they're the see? And she's... And then there's this guy. He's black. I just... Wait, the fuck is going on? Data logs? Fuck data logs. Actually, that's a good point. I want to get back to that in a bit. Koisatsu, shinchi shokujo, watashi no ma, poki desu. To tell the truth, this is a video I need to make as a form of catharsis. A personal hero of mine once tweeted, "They think 6 years developing Final Fantasy XIII and 5 years of suffering with how bad it is can't cause PTSD. I'm here to say that it can, and it has. You will not silence me. I'll say it again. I have PTSD due to waiting 6 years for Final Fantasy XIII and then it turns out to suck. Basically because I'm a Final Fantasy fan playing Final Fantasy." Thank you, Mel. You're a hero to us all. I can't imagine Mitomu Toriyama made this game to satisfy anyone but armpit fetishists. Is that how it was, Toriyama? Is that why you can complete most of this game using only one hand? Hey, where you go? I've felt the venom of Final Fantasy fans before, after they've lashed out for my assault on their delicate feelings. But no matter how much grief I've given 8, 10, and Charlie's Angels, I can always turn a corner and find a nugget of good game design without needing to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Unlike 13, which it's hard for me to say for sure where I want to begin, but I suppose I should be thankful that if there was ever one aspect that is not linear about 13, it's my choice and how I'll bitch about it. So to burn as many bridges, piss on as many parades, and mansplain as much as humanly possible, I'm going to start with the production values. Anywhere I've seen a conversation in which people are just trashing the game, they usually default to the predictable rebuttal, "Them production values dough." Yeah man, beautiful game. The art team really outdid themselves. Does anyone else want to fuck Lightning's armpits? I mean, they're not wrong. Final Fantasy XIII is absolutely, positively, 100% subjectively gorgeous. If your eyes are made of toast, and you're ignorant to the principles of artistic cohesion, I'll admit, a few times I was caught off guard by some unreachable backdrop scenery, or even a hallway or two that provided quite the eye candy. But then the moment you turn the camera, you'll spot something that sticks out like a sore thumb. It severely damaged the world building when I kept on running across these impractical art assets that were interjected because, I guess the art team thought they looked super hype. The entire cast may or not have profoundly boring, forgettable designs, which I suppose beats out the more bombastic drivel of previously directed Mitomu Toriyama games. In contrast, the creature designs suffer from layers upon layers of insignificant details, a problem that Tetsuya Nomura has been suffering with since the era of Final Fantasy X. But hey, this is a guy who hired a fashion coach so he could relearn how to draw, practical clothing. I don't care why you gave Lulu all those belts, what's your excuse for this? I think 13 may be where he began to realize that he had a problem. What was once belts and zippers, the aesthetic for this game looks more like candy and car seats. Not only do the creature designs barely leave their heads distinguishable from their ass, but the fal'Cie specifically look like random pieces of world art, sometimes with a smiley face squiggled on, haphazardly shoved in as characters. Even the particle effects are overly detailed. They're so overblown with layers of gloss and luminescence that they all end up blending together, presenting a wash of glaring white sameness. Then there's the soundtrack, which has more than one problem. While it's well done on a professional level, it felt lifeless. Worse, it didn't punctuate the atmosphere.
Scorpion robots and mountains of trash. This place would make a nice picnic spot, minus all the uninvited guests.
Yeah, this is, very foresty. The entire time I was playing this game, the soundtrack struck me as Final Fantasy X, but mixing massive heaps of amphetamines with opiates. But hey, now we know what happens when Nobuo Uematsu isn't there to pull on Masashi Himauzu's chain. Oh god, did you know Masashi composed the music pipes? Okay. This boss music is very hype, Masashi. The hypest. But beauty is only skin deep, Pokey. Oh really? Well, rip me open and snap into my Toblerone. When it comes to RPGs, I consider myself quite malleable in terms of standards. While it's true that a great presentation can help with getting me lost via the game's atmosphere, for me, it's tertiary. My top two concerns are combat and writing. Sure, I find it preferable that both are executed to the best of the team's ability, but I can still love an RPG if one property outshines the other. And unfortunately, in my eyes, this game fails to comprehend either of these aspects. For instance, 13's writing is a failure to recognize basic narrative structure. Given that story is arguably the most important element to an RPG, it's really no wonder why Motomu was raked over a bed of hot coals by long-standing fans and newcomers alike. Raked. I said raked. With a K. You won't be able to tell from the first hour of the game though. It starts off with a bang and follows up with some pretty noteworthy momentum. Wow, am I really gonna be able to play as a female Dante? Yeah, fuck you Neo NYPD. Fuck you robotic serpent with chainsaw arms, that's pretty rad. I don't know what the fuck you're saying, but I don't care, I just wanna keep going. The entire first hour continues to funnel you forward, and in general for any game, it's just good game design to ensure that the introductory excitement continues to move forward before the real game begins. But it's the moment that the excitement dies down when you begin to realize that they're still using nomenclature that's never been explained to you.
Help me out here. I mean, did the Xiii do this? How in the world did we end up here?
How should I know?
What did I just do?
You used magic! You used the power of Xiii! The Xiii cursed us! We're Xiii now!
Only identified with, it's that thing. Over there. At this point, you may or may not have paid attention to one of the hundreds of tutorials that you've been getting spammed with, one of them explaining the data log system. Truth be told, if you did, you may have noticed its poor presentation and avoided going back into the data log, hoping to hear at least just one of your 6 paragons of wisdom explain anything. Or maybe they could have named these esoteric life forms, some of which I didn't realize were life forms until tens of hours into the game, by using descriptive words. Fuck Valsi, that shit's a demigod. Instead of Xiii, why not cursed? Xiii? No, they're clearly the fallen or the failed. Ah, right, Xiii stones. I almost forgot about them. Forgotten. I'm going for the forgotten. Using real identifiable words will work wonders if you're too lazy to exposit the intricacies of your world. It also helps when you don't toss in random nonsensical shit for a sudden shift in pace. I mean, what the fuck even is this? Why can I toy with the weather at a whim? Is this rape culture? Really, the only thing this game makes clear is that once happenstance binds the fate of 6 insufferable sheets of stationery paper together, they don't know what the fuck to think about it. And they'll remind you of this for 35 hours straight.
We're post-Xiii, right? Enemy's a cocoon. So, does that mean that our focus is... Are we supposed to...
Save her.
Say what? I'm... turning myself in.
Huh?
I know they execute Xiii, but... Hey. They're not total monsters.
Sarah was trying to tell us how to complete our focus, and we have...
Guess it's time to face the peril of our plight. Sounds splendid.
Whatever it is the Xiii want, we're the ones who decide what we do.
It truly astonishes me that they would dedicate writing thousands of lines that essentially say the exact same thing, rather than, you know, write dialogue that moves the story forward. We even get a number of very pink flashbacks that ensure that Sarah is super cool and everyone loves being her friend, which would mean something if she wasn't sitting backstage as a block of ice. Here's a hint, Motomu. Experiencing a character vicariously through others' flashbacks doesn't exactly sell me on how great they are, but thank you for letting me vicariously experience no eating shit. Now, I could sit here and dissect as to why each and every character in this game is as deep as the focus group deemed acceptable, but you've heard it all before. Yes, they're bland, shallow, unrealized, jailbait, and edgy, and not so bad. But honestly, they're largely inconsequential. Maybe with an exception for Snow, given that he's gone from airhead Naruto Simulacrum to the can no longer be pouty-faced king. It's like they had to trade his awful trope for one more tolerable. To me, it's the villains that were the most poorly written heaps of desecrated squirrel semen. Yes, I said heaps. No, but really, think about the worst these shitlords have done. Repeat the word focus until it's turned into white noise. Come up with contrived reasons to force their Eidolons to motivate them. Oh, yeah, aside from the fact that they're an unstoppable wake of chaos and death that just won't stop. Even when they know that doing nothing is the only move to save lives.
If we can stop this by doing nothing, we'll do nothing.
I mean, yeah, sure, they argued incessantly over the meaning of their focus, which will happen when the villain abjures what it's meant to be interpreted as to begin with.
That is how a focus comes down, people. The Xiii, they don't spell it out with clear-cut instructions. All you get is a hazy glimpse.
So what you're telling me is that you'd rather inject an esoteric dream into 6 unreliable people who are mostly complete strangers to one another, and then make them easily identifiable by your opposition via snazzy tattoos? It's not that the Fal'Cie can't talk, this one never shuts the fuck up. In fact, halfway into the game, he just flat out tells you exactly what he wants, then repeats himself. 5 hours later. Imagine how much of this bullshit that could have been forgone in lieu for actual plot advancement. At your disposal, you have a zealous military force that would do anything for you, filled with powerful political and military figures. Sid and Rosh among these. Instead, you relegated Sid as a tool to motivate these scrubs, wasting the potential of his power, and then left Rosh to die in a stupid space lobster. You took so many elaborate and impractical detours all because you can't blow your own brains out? Did you not see how many times your bullshit idea almost came to a premature end? Look at how many times your chosen lessee decided to have an arbitrary moment of doubt just to have a Dinobot slap their shit straight. Aside from Lightning and Saz, everyone else essentially grasped at straws for an excuse to suddenly screech about how they're worthless and add nothing to the table. Not that Hope was entirely wrong about that. Actually, you know what? I'll get back to the Eidolons in a moment. I suppose I should start talking about what I've been neglecting this whole time. Yeah, you know. The gameplay. At least I'm not the only one neglecting it. The game boils down to a pretty safe formula. You run down halls, kick back, and watch a cutscene every 10 feet, and then you mash the X button. Paradigm shift to cook evenly on both sides. Once you've done that for, give or take 30 hours, then it gets good. Run around in a giant circle. Kick back and collect a quest every 10 feet, then mash the X button. Paradigm shift to cook evenly on both sides. It's a bit difficult for me to choose where to begin when talking about gameplay because the game never really feels like it begins. Much like the problem I mentioned with the story, how it starts off strong with lots of excitement and shit happening, the same happens with combat. My first impression was, wow, nice and simple. Now I can't wait till it gets complex and allows me to take some strategic control. But that never happens. You keep getting tutorials on all the extra features that help you maintain yourself in combat, but they never encourage you to actually take command of who you're playing as. Auto combat is excessively efficient. They tried to encourage you to move your cursor by letting RNG walk your characters right into area of effect spells, forcing you to use an emergency healing item. Yeah, all of that pacing around they do during combat, all RNG. Sometimes they'll walk into a slap or walk next to someone being targeted by an AoE spell. Every so often RNG will mosey them off to safety. Oh no wait, the best is when RNG will place a death spell on the character you're playing as, body them, then give you a game over.
Just like that.
But my tactical paradigm shift. Yeah, you'll need to paradigm shift to let your party handle themselves between other shifts, which changes the pace of battle, but not your interaction with it. Also gives the enemy a free shot on your party while they're too busy striking a pose. So, you know, that's cute. Honestly, the paradigm system is one of the poorest excuses for tactical control I've ever seen. It's always the same thing with each boss fight. Then later on, it's the same thing with normal enemy encounters, dragging them out to gratuitous pornographic lengths of time wasted. In most cases, here's the solution. Rav Rav calm till stagger, calm Rav till dead, send med calm if you need to heal. Want to get crazy? Try 2 healers and a tank. Maybe utilize a support class. Or 2. There's only one fight in the entire game I can think of in which I wanted to use a specific spell to cheese the boss, using poison on Orphan. Holy shit, after that, there is no fight. It's done. And hey, to their credit, they also attempted to spice up some of the fights to invoke a fleeting sense of fun. Flan will merge if you don't DPS them quick enough, and late game behemoths will show you their final form. These would be okay ideas if they didn't completely reset their health gauge, dragging out these already intensely boring fights even longer. And then you have the Eidolons. This had some potential. At first, I thought it was about shaking up the combat by asking me to execute a series of abilities to impress my suspiciously sexy Magitech gods. That is, until you realize that that's not the case at all. Aside from Snow and Fang, the Eidolons for the rest of the crew just require more of the same. Yeah, 1v1 me, faggot. Oh, it took 2 of you to even get my ass down? Fucking scrubs. And then they become Transformers. No, this is a thing. I don't know what Vanilla's is supposed to be. I think it's a Serbian Dinobot, because she looks like she's feeling funny in her no-no zone every time I use Gaian Salvo. I mean...
Right here.
The layer of gameplay the Eidolons add is, once again, pretty unsubstantial. I don't even know what I'm looking at here, and all the tutorial tells me is just to hit the giant bullshit baby buttons. Although, to be fair, using Vanilla to summon Hekatonkir to knock down this big guy, then spam her death spell on it till it dies is pretty satisfying. But don't expect to have this fun too rapidly. You see that TP gauge there? That's a disguise. It's actually the fun police. It feels like wasted potential that they spent so much time putting together these animations that present sick air juggling. Just look at all the fun your characters are having. I bet you wish you were having this fun. I wouldn't have felt so harshly towards the combat, or the lack thereof, I suppose, if exploring felt even remotely rewarding. Yeah, the hallways. We all know about Mitomu and his obsession with suffocant, crooked lines. Though you've heard it a million times, it bears repeating, if not for the sole factor that they're doing nothing to break the pace of the hallway cutscene combat gyre of safety ad nauseum. Safety? Pokey, you talking some shit? No, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Just, you have to... Hold on. Fucking... The problem with the map and its linearity isn't so much that it's linear to begin with, but what you do inside the hallway. The first thing that you'll notice is that they show you a lot of pretty vistas that you'll never get access to. Never. Pretty vistas behind an invisible wall is as nourishing for the mind as a photo of oxygen to a drowning... give me a second, I'm saving this to my desktop. Essentially, they want to give you the hope that one day you'll be able to step beyond the invisible wall and into Heaven's Gate after your soul has been adequately crushed. The next order of business is to never let you enjoy some downtime in towns. For those of you not entirely familiar with why towns are such an important staple to the RPG genre, and find yourself scoffing at what may sound like such a minute thing to cry over, let me explain to you their importance. Aside from the ever-desirable downtime that a town grants the player between dungeon crawling and getting their asses seared into a nice juicy steak, they also provide atmosphere. It's a fragment of world building, something that tells us that this is a living, breathing place. They also provide practical and logical points of narrative intrigue through the form of people that you talk to, helping to move the story forward. It's not like Final Fantasy XIII would have a problem like that already, I mean. In fact, the one and only time when you even get the illusion of being able to breathe and wind down is when you wander into Nautilus. It's a massive amusement park brightly lit up during an eventful evening, and all you really do here is... Oh, come here, you little cutie. Another thing that you're allowed to do is open up chests. Wait, temper that excitement. They took the fun out of this as well. Thanks to the weapon upgrade system, all the fun and wonder of uncovering a new piece of loot is sullied. Aside from it being esoteric as to how the upgrade bonus system even works, add on top of that the fact that there's no way to tell when an item maxes out to evolve without a guide. And once you've started investing materials and money into these weapons, it becomes futile to part with them. Why? Well, because there's no decent way to focus on upgrading a second weapon before endgame. If you fucked up and started upgrading a weapon you later found out will not turn into the paramount ultimate of your choice, well, whoops. Accessories run into a similar problem in that when you upgrade earlier armor, that's salvage that could have been used for the next tier. With any gear that increases your health, this becomes aggressively apparent. In the end, it made obtaining any loot just feel hollow and pointless, you know, like most of the script. And Square, my old buddy, old pal, I have to ask you, what is it with you and your absolute aversion to practical and convenient leveling systems? Level up and get swole, learn some tricks. Come on, you've done this before, big guy. The Crystarium system is how your characters will progress. On the surface, it honestly doesn't seem that bad. Hey, maybe if they put effort into them, they could have been talent trees. But no, they're just a collection of halls leading from one stat grab to the next. They gate the fuck out of progression and always make you take stats that you don't need for that particular character just to grab what's good. Yeah, strength is really gonna serve Hope well. Super well. You ever see this nigga's sick ass toss? Now, in light of all the shit that I've been slinging, you'd think that by calling this game safe, that I wasn't keeping a consistent script, right? I mean, I wouldn't blame you. Have you seen my upload rate? It's pretty bad. One of the more common and unsurprisingly Snow-esque defenses I hear from Final Fantasy XIII fans is that people who hate it hate change. New things scare them like Camden scares cops. You might want to rethink that argument, Cupcake. Unless if there's some other franchise called Final Fantasy in which they don't drastically change the formula with each new entry. I mean, if that's the case, then I probably sound like a fucking dick right now. Jesus. I apologize. At the time, this game was the ultimate amalgamation of the top-selling game's more commonly shared designs. Linear levels? Check. Thoughtless progression system? Check. Game plays itself? Check. Characters built for the lowest common denominator? Check. Cinematic camera? Check. Oh, and did I mention all the tutorials? Even when they try to wow you with a nice large open area, wanting you to feel like a beautiful caged bird who's fluttered their way to freedom, it's still the same goddamn game. Except now you're talking to rocks and you're crazy enough to hear them talk back, and you know you hit rock bottom once you realize that you're listening to them. They don't even trust their audience with the New Game Plus. Instead, we got Endgame Plus. Why? Well, because they stuffed everything optional at the end of the fucking game because God forbid you ever turn left off the beaten path for an hour. You know how some games need a second playthrough to fully appreciate the breadth of what it has to offer? Like Vagrant Story for combat nuances, and MGR because it does a piss poor job at explaining itself? Well, this was my second time through 13, and I can say that this rule does not apply. Understanding that the game punishes experimentation adaptation and combat just wound up making it too easy. And then the story only winds up making less sense because now you know what stupid bullshit that does not compute is coming forth, and we'll find no answer to fill in the gaps. Also, 30 hours of this shit.
Focus.
Focus?
Focus.
Focus.
Focus. Focus. Focus. Focus.
Focus.
But, you know what? For as much shit as Final Fantasy fans have had to put up with for the past 14 years, they still expected more than this. The next time you want to use a game's launch sales as a defense for its quality, which 13 sold over 1 million day one in Japan, I want you to think about the mountains of returned copies that retailers were desperate to sell. And quite frankly, you deserved it, Jamie. You deserved it. Oh, and the best part? When asked about the criticisms that 13 has faced for its poor design choices, Mitomu said, "We generally don't feel that 13 was a mistake or that we made a mistake with it. No, we don't put it that way. Our goal with 13 was telling a good story with a lot of human drama, and that was achieved. Because we wanted to introduce a new battle system that was completely new to the series, paradigm shifts and things like that. So, in order to get it across to the player, it did require a much longer tutorial, which was criticized for being linear and whatever. Even though the criticism was fair and it was reasonable, it was unavoidable because of the nature of the game. We don't regard it that we made a mistake as such. While I disagree entirely with what he said in defense for his game, I will say this. I think it's a shame that Lightning wound up being such an unrealized character. I love her design, and I applaud Ali Hillis for injecting more personality and life into the character than Mitomu Toriyama's awful writing. She was able to portray Lightning as powerful, focused, stylish, and blend together an applause-worthy tone of a take-no-prisoners attitude with the overprotective, nurturing side that she projected onto Sarah. In the hands of someone more talented, such as Hidenobu Sakaguchi or Yasumi Matsuno, Lightning could have easily been remembered as one of the most refreshing RPG leads, rather than Toriyama's waifu. Maybe she's better fleshed out in 13-2 and Lightning Returns, but I don't plan on finding out anytime soon, if at all. I actually value my time and don't enjoy wasting it by playing giant pieces of shit, even if I did beat DMC2 live on stream in one 5-hour sitting. No, shut up. So, would I recommend that you check out Final Fantasy XIII? Well, let me put it to you like this. I've now purchased, played through, and beaten this game twice. Instead, I could have just been fucking a grapefruit this whole time. Oh, and Sarah's hair is stupid.
Well, so one day, I come out, fucking 5 sets of wallabies running at me. I grab my knife, like a pack. Take that right in the marmite. You saw it. Fucking wallabies and the babies, you kill them and you spawn. Well, you spit it out, you put it on a barbie, you fucking eat your testicles, don't you? Alright, and then I've got this stream, right? Breeding a man with a cock large enough to finally fucking bury a reef. And when you ask me what Australia Day is, I'll tell you it's about that cunt Tony Abbott fucked 2 prostitutes back in 2014. I mean, oh, finally a day I can relax. No! Fucking ruse. Size of your fucking arm. This fucking spider the size of your fucking arm looks at me, he's like, right, cunt. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing in my ass? And he's like, I'm having a beer, cunt.